Good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ellis County Commission meeting. We're going to open and call this meeting to order. All capable, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Neil Younger.
Present.
Chair Nathan Liker.
Here.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Are there any changes to the order of business?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the prior minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look through those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fine.
Okay. Minutes are looking good. Next, we'll move to the consent agenda. Any questions or discussions?
I have none.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Agenda's approved. At this time, issues from anybody from the public that is not on our regular order of business. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Bernie Hazlehurst, lifelong resident of Hays, Kansas, and I'm here to implore you to please use the revenue neutral program to maintain property taxes. My property taxes have gone up just since 2020, $1,000. And as a retired person, disabled veteran, you're going to tax me out of my home. I've got it paid for. It's been paid for since 2011, but with increased taxes all the time and plus insurance going up, you're going to drive me out of my home. We need to find a way to control taxes and keep these things reasonable for people that are living off on a fixed income. It's just not working. We need your help to control expenses and keep these taxes in line. That's basically all I have to say. I told Bill, use the old Rolling Stones saying or song, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need. Well, let's get what we need, not what we want.
Okay.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You.
Are there anyone else? Go ahead.
I want to talk about the budget, but I think I should wait for the budget hearing for that, or you want to know?
You want to, huh?
Wait for the hearing?
Okay. If anybody else, that would be an agenda item, so we can wait till that.
That's usually when, okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Is there anyone else that would like to discuss anything that's not on our agenda? I should have clarified that. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the monthly financial report. Had a chance to look through that?
No concerns on my part.
Okay. Good?
Yep.
I'll agree. I didn't see anything concerning. At this time, we'll move to the revenue neutral rate and 2025 budget hearing. Okay. First, we need a motion to,
I'll move to open the public hearing for the intention of exceeding the revenue neutral rate in 2025 Ellis County budgets.
And I'll second that.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, the public hearing for the revenue neutral rate is open. So.
Thank you. My name's Ken Kennedy. I live at 4500 Danby Lane here in Hays, Kansas, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you briefly. I want to start by just some general discussion about the budget overall and about taxes in Ellis County, and not so much specifically about your budget at this time. I trust that Darren and each of you have done a nice job putting the budget together. I did review it, but I'm more going to be concerned about the tax impact that it's having on our county, specifically the last few years. But before I start, I want to thank Bobby Dreiling. I sent her an email on Saturday. I had a question about the budget. Sent her an email on Saturday, expecting they'd give her some time Monday to respond back to me. And she responded back about 5 minutes later and did some research for me on the weekend. That's appreciated. So thank you for doing that. The impact on our taxes has been significant in Ellis County over the past 5 years. Now, I only went back 5 years because that's as long as I've been here involved with the taxes. I moved in 19, but the first full tax year on our property was in 2020. So since 2020, from 2020 to 2024, the assessed valuations went up 30%. That's 6% a year. That's fairly significant, and that's a huge impact on people's taxes. And in that same time, from 20 to 24, the taxes have went up 40%. That's terrible. I mean, that is really a big impact. Now, part of that, the difference between the 30% assessed valuation and the 40% taxes, a large part of that is the bond issue that we passed in the county. So it's not, I'm not talking just county, I'm talking about the taxing entities as a whole. But when you look at your residential property taxes, 30% assessed valuation and 40% taxes. Now, you all know this, and I'm not saying anything that people don't know, but there's two parts to the revenue you receive. One is the tax rate, the mill levy, and the other one is the assessed valuation. When either go up or down, it affects the revenue, and it affects our personal property taxes as homeowners. So it's important to think about those things and look at ways to reduce the revenue you need, and basically the only way to do that is to reduce some expenditures somehow or postpone some projects that you have. And that is a very difficult thing to do. But the one thing that's helping you all, and I believe I read from the treasurer, I got an email or a memo from the treasurer, I don't remember when it was, a while back, but I think he indicated that the interest on idle funds was up significantly for the county this year. And that's a positive, because the previous year's interests have been horrible, and they have risen somewhat this year, which is helpful. Maybe next year that'll be the same thing, we hope, but that can be helpful in your revenue and helpful to reduce property taxes if you choose to use some of it that way. I also need to say that a year ago when I presented, Darren mentioned that he thought he might be able to reduce mill levy, a few mill, or not a few mills, but a part of a mill, and you all did that. You all reduced the mill levy about 9/10, I think. This year, in looking at your budget, it looks like you're able to reduce the mill levy another 6/10. So, in my opinion, with assessed valuations going up, the county reducing the mill levy is kind of the right thing to do. It's helpful to our tax burden, and it does offset the increased valuation to some extent. When you think about taxes, we think about ad valorem taxes, our property taxes, but there are other taxes that affect us significantly. So we have to be careful. It's not just an isolated thing, whether it's ad valorem county taxes, ad valorem school taxes, or ad valorem city taxes. Those are the big three. There are other few smaller ones. But the other taxes affect, the first thing that happens to those that receive a paycheck in any sort, or Social Security in many cases, is income taxes. So depending on the income you have, maybe 15 to 30+% of your personal revenue has gone to income taxes that quick. You never even see it. On top of that, then you have sales tax now. In our county, it's nearing 10%. I always just figure 10%. When you buy a car or something like that, you figure pretty close to 10% sales taxes. And so you're talking about from 30% income tax, 10% sales tax. So the money you receive, the money you spend, you've lost 40% of it to taxes, very quickly. That's damaging. On top of that, you have motor vehicle tax. Every time you go get your tag, you have mineral taxes, which is helpful to the county. Some individuals have mineral taxes. Gas and electric utility taxes, cell and internet taxes, capital gains tax if you have any investments, and then on top of all those taxes, we each get to pay for health insurance, auto insurance, and home insurance. So if you look at the various expenditures we have, tax-related, insurance-related, it's a large part of the budget. And I heard not long ago, I read somewhere that 66% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Now, didn't validate that, and some things you read anymore you can't believe. But I'm sure there's a significant number of people living paycheck to paycheck. I'm sure that's true in our community. And if that's true, every penny added to taxes is damaging to them. It's hard for them. It's hard for people who live paycheck to paycheck to have another expenditure, especially property taxes, because they always come as one chunk and you pay them twice a year unless you have them amortized in your payments. But they're the thing that really create a burden for us at times. The other thing that I'd like for you all to keep in mind is taxes, no doubt, are probably going up faster than wages. When you look at the increase in assessed valuation and the mill levies, and some entities have had to increase their mill, or have increased, I shouldn't say they had to, they increased their mill levies some. Taxes are going up faster than wages for most people, I would guess. So with that in mind, you've got one side, you've got income that's not increasing and taxes that are increasing, and it's really hard for people. So I appreciate you all thinking of that as you work on your budgets each year, and you've tried to do that by reducing the mill levy, and I appreciate that. And as I think through it, I'd like to see you be able to reduce it a little bit more. I don't know if you can or not, but would like to see that. There's one offsetting factor that I didn't look at in depth, but I think land use values have declined significantly this year, and that'll impact your revenue some. Mineral taxes may decline a little bit too because of what's happening with the price of oil. But I mentioned last night to the school board, there's three essential parts to budgeting and operational expenditures. When it comes to taxes, there's the issue of adequacy, having enough. And frankly, I don't know any taxing entity that ever can sit there and say, I have enough. Rarely do you hear that. But that is an issue, adequacy and how you get the funds and so forth. Equity, how you spend them fairly. And that's, and I think the county, I think the city, and I think the school district do a nice job with equity, and that is to spend, I think they spend the money fairly. I don't see you all putting a 4-lane paved road in for somebody and not, you know, and a 2-lane next to them for the neighbor. That would be inequitable, and that doesn't happen. So I think, but as I mentioned to the school board last night, I don't think the state spends their money very equitably, and I don't think the federal government spends it equitably at all. So, but I think at the county level, the city level, and the school district level, I think that happens. So the last part of the 3 issues, adequacy, equity, and efficiency, is efficiency. That's the one you have the most control of. You have control of the mill levy, and you don't have control of the assessed valuation. You have control of the mill levy, but you also have tremendous control of efficiency. And that's the area probably that I think everybody kind of has it on their mind, but it's not normally talked about a lot. You say, how can we be more efficient? And I think probably Darren does that every day, trying to figure it out, I assume, and you all do it some. But I'd like to for you to all have a focus on efficiency throughout the next year and say, what expenditures do we need to make? What expenditures do we not need to make, and how can we do them most efficiently? And I think that's critical with a taxing entity to do that, is to look at ones we need to make them, the expenditures we must make, and how can we do it more efficiently. And also keep in mind, and I think I mentioned this last year, the easiest money for any of us to spend is other people's money. And easier than that even is tax money. For some reason, we don't think of tax money as being our individual money. We think of tax money as being other people's money somehow. Well, it's our money. Whenever you spend tax dollars, each time you make a decision to spend money, you're spending each of your money, you're spending all of the audience's money, and you're spending all of our residents' money. So I hope you keep that in mind with the expenditure and say, it's my money and others in our community's money we're spending. And I likely think you do that, but I just want to mention it to you. The other thing you don't, sometimes I think in government, and I don't know your budget well enough or how you operate, but sometimes in government, we think if we have it, we have to spend it. You know, you get to, a gentleman last night at the board meeting said, you get to the end of the year and people who control budgets think they need to get rid of that budget because there's an old philosophy, if you don't spend your budget, you may not get as much next year. Then that's just wrong. So you don't have to spend your budget just because you have it. And it's very difficult for all of you to balance the burden of needs against the revenue you have. I realize the difficult balance that is. So in closing, I'd just like to ask you to think about 2 things as the year moves along and as you look at your budget this year is, how can you reduce the tax burden on the city of Hayes and the county residents? What can you do to reduce the tax burden on us? And then the last thing is, how can you return over the year, how can you return some revenue to the taxpayers? You did it last year a little bit by reducing the mill levy after the year kind of started. So think about that. How can you, and is there a way to return some, if you have some excess revenue, can you get it back in the taxpayers' hands somehow? I don't know, I'm just asking you to consider that. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Before anybody responds up here, is there anybody else from the public that would wish to speak on this topic and add to Mr. Kennedy? Okay. Commissioners, would you have any discussion to add to that or statements that you'd like to make on that?
No, at this time, I'll hold some of my comments to the vote on the budget itself.
Okay. Mr. Younger?
Nope, I have nothing to add at this time. I will wait also.
Okay. Well, I would like to address some of the issues that Mr. Kennedy presented that, you know, we do as a commission do a lot of work and a lot of due diligence to try and, we do a lot of things as a commission to try and limit the amount of impact that we have on the tax dollars that we charge our community. And so, with that being said, we are trying to make steps forward progressively on some of the things that have been offset in years past, such as some of the road and bridge projects that have been offset. So from my standpoint, and I'm only going to speak for myself, I understand the thought process to stay revenue neutral, but I also understand the dramatic reality of we need to do some of these projects, because I don't want to sit up here and a year from now have another bridge failure that could have been on a plan that we could have delayed, or a pothole that causes an accident that we didn't fix because we offset some of the costs for a year or two for a road project. So some of those things is where I'm tore on it. And Darren and his staff has done a wonderful job of building budgets to where at the end of the year, if there is leftover, that stuff comes back into our general, and those departments are not at risk of losing what they have. They're encouraged to be the most efficient they can. That way we carry that over into our next year. So I want to say kudos to our staff for as hard as they work to hold their budgets steady. And every one of them has done a very good job of doing so. We've made some additions to the county, and that's what's some of the reflection. But also, some of the projects that are being done are paid for in full in advance, just like our Public Works building. It's a very big project, but it's been paid for, and it's paid in cash, and we're not borrowing that money. So we're trying to think ahead to impact today. So with that, if there's no other public comment, then we'll need to proceed.
And I'll move to close public hearing for the 2025 revenue neutral rates and budgets.
And I'll second that.
Michael and Neil, both make sure we speak up today so people in the audience can hear us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for the 2025 revenue neutral rate and budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, the public hearing is closed. Yes. Okay. The following, now we will need to move to approve the proposed budget.
I move to approve the proposed 2025 General Fund and Fire District Number 1 budgets and Resolution 2024-12 for budget year 2025.
And I will second that.
And this will be a roll call vote. Okay.
I'll make my comments before vote.
Okay. At this time, we'll open up to the commissioners for comments for this.
I have a couple things to address. One, through our budget process that we start in March and go through, again, I'll second what Nathan said as far as our department heads and our elected officials that present their budgets. I think they do a very good job in getting it to Darren as we go through it. We did cut the budget about $1 million based on what was originally proposed when the first budget presentation, when all the department heads got all their things to us as the full budget. We did cut about $1 million out. We're proposing to exceed revenue neutral at this time. We're going to exceed last year's budget by about $600,000 in that range. And I can attribute that each department is almost fully even as far as their services, their equipment, and what they do day to day. The attribute to the increase in the budget is almost exclusively to employee wages and benefits and salaries. And as a commission, it's been very public, and I think so again, the public I don't think should be surprised. We implemented the pay wage study last year. We went through the study, and I think as a commission we said we're going to do this study and we're going to implement it, and not be a commission that sits back and gets a study and then either implements it in stages or doesn't do anything. So from the implementation of that wage study for the benefit of our employees, that's where most of this increase comes from, comes from that paying our employees. I believe this organization, as any organization, is you want the best employees that you can get. And part of that is making sure you pay for them and get benefits that attract quality employees. The second part of that is we've brought on the dispatch over the last couple of years fully. So that's adding another 5 to 6 employees, I believe, into that department. That was a department that was not part of the county, and so paying for those employees right there as we bring them fully into the county is part of that increase too. So the increase that I see is almost all attributed just to that. So the other equipment and departments that had needs that they kind of wanted, and that hopefully that addresses your issue a little bit, Vernie. I know it doesn't completely, but I do think we went for what we need in the departments and not what we want. We cut out other things as far as what we can provide as services, and made sure we budgeted long-term, hopefully for bridges and roads. We got a 13-year plan for roads and bridges, so we want to continue to move down that path. But at the same time, those departments didn't come with major increases to make sure we can get it done. They did it within the budget that they already have. The second part, to address Ken Kennedy a little bit on if you don't have it, don't spend it just because you have it. Our departments, Nathan addressed that a little bit. Our departments do a very good job, I believe. At the end of the year, if there's leftover, they put what they have into their reserve accounts. So our budget has been built over the last couple of years with each department building in reserves, so that way we can take care of future projects and not, again, have to borrow or scramble to raise taxes to get those projects done. And beyond that reserves, it comes back into our general fund, so that way we can do what we can to lower the mill. One of our levers is lowering that mill levy. Interest on idle funds. Vern has done a very good job the last couple of years. We have been using the idle funds to help us reduce the mill levy to apply towards our budget, so we don't have to fully take on that whole general fund mill levy. So we have been able to do that. We will do that again this year as far as lowering the mill. So those are kind of my general thoughts on the budget process of what we've gone through, and not to pat ourselves on the back. I get, as a taxpayer, I have my tax levy sheet here for my property. I'll be paying more taxes this year than I did last year, and I did the year before and the year before that. So it is something I certainly take into consideration as a taxpayer myself of what we're trying to do with so it's not to pat ourselves on the back to say that we just lowered the mill or we did certain things to cut the budget without staying revenue neutral. I want to address one more thing about revenue neutral, though. I don't believe it's the saving grace that we are often led to believe by the state legislature. Vern, said, please use the revenue neutral. I have property tax here from another property I have in another county. That property valuation dropped, and yet my taxes are going to go up in that county because they're still going to make themselves revenue neutral. But to be able to get the full amount of tax in their budget off of my property in that county, they have to raise my taxes because the valuation dropped. And that's where I don't think this revenue neutral is a saving grace that we often get told is, yes, when property valuations are going up, it can be part of that lever of making sure our budgets maintain themselves and don't necessarily increase at the same pace. But I'm telling you right now, if your property valuations are going up and your taxes are going up, that's one thing to get upset about. But if your property valuations are going down and your property taxes go up because they're still revenue neutral, that's a whole nother kick in the pants. And so that's just my overall review of what this revenue neutral rate is and isn't. It really only works if your property valuations are staying neutral and your budget stays neutral. Otherwise, you're just playing this game of trying to placate a necessary evil of not raising taxes because your valuations went up. But if your valuations go down and your budget stays the same, you still have to raise those taxes. So those are my comments. I'll let the other commissioners have their part.
Thank you. Commissioner Younger?
Yeah, I'll hit on a little bit of the public works, and hats off to all our head departments. There were some in here that, especially Brandon, when we were trying to cut some stuff and he moved stuff around just to be able to do that. That is a safety thing. As we all know, as we're all getting older, so are our bridges, so is our infrastructure. So we fought hard to keep this mill levy down and spent many and many hours. And like I say, hats off to all the head departments. Like I say, becoming a safety issue if there is a bridge, which we had happen, a pothole. This funding goes to that. It doesn't, we're not just saying, hey, yeah, we've got it. We are putting it to use. So that's my thing. I want to keep everybody safe. And like I say, we did work a lot of hours on this budget. So that's all I have.
Okay. One comment I'd like to make is I appreciate everybody showing up today for the revenue neutral hearing. However, at this point in time of the stage of our budget process, our hands are tied. We have gone through many hours of budgeting and working. What I would suggest is next year we will put out, I believe, February, March timeframe, a schedule of when our budget process starts. Please come to those hearings and those meetings. Please present ideas. If you see places to save that we don't see up here, do not be afraid to contact us outside of the meeting. We have our cards, our numbers were listed on the website. Please contact us. If you see a place that there could be a savings or a project that maybe you feel would benefit us more than another project and we're just not aware of it, please do that so we can present that in our budget process. So when we get to this point next year, maybe there's a way we can save or cut or reduce some dollars. So please start the process earlier. Do not be afraid to come to our meetings throughout the year and sit here and present to us. I don't think anybody up here is gonna be intimidating to you. So that's all I have is just please, we put it out in February, March timeframe. We'll have multiple preliminary budgets through the month. July is usually our major month of budgeting where we spend many, many hours going through it with a fine-tooth comb. So if you can put that into your schedule to put some of this stuff ahead of us, we can bring that in. That's what this whole commission is about, is trying to do things the most efficient way. So if you see something, say something. So
To add to that, last night, and my wife asked what was going on, but anyhow, 5 o'clock till 8:30, I had an individual on my front deck asking, how did you guys cut that much money on your budget? I says, well, and to add to Mr. Liker's comment, every $1,000, every $100 counts. So as we kept doing that, that's how we got to that dollar amount. So I had to explain it to the individual, but it is what it is. That's what I'm here for. So.
Okay. Well, with that, we have a motion and a second to go ahead and for the approval process of our 2025 General Fund and Fire District Number 1 budgets and Resolution 2024-12 for the budget year of 2025. We'll start with a roll call vote. Will the clerk please ask for the vote?
Nathan Liker.
I vote yes.
Michael Burgess.
Yes.
And Neil Younger.
Yes.
Thank you. So with that, the motion of the general fund vote is approved.
I'll second.
Well, it's approved.
Done. Okay.
We're done.
Okay.
Again, I thank everybody coming for this budget process, and I hope to look forward to hearing from you sooner next year.
Resolution.
Okay.
Resolution is the roll.
The next item, go ahead, Darren.
Oh, Mr.
Did I
Jeter and
miss
I were just
something?
discussing as part of the vote, the resolution 24-12 is for the exceeding of the revenue neutral rate.
Do we need to make those a separate vote?
No, but it might be just,
The only thing that was, Bill Jeter, County Council, the only thing that wasn't clear in my mind what you just did, you need to have a roll call vote on the exceeding the neutral revenue rate.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that's exactly how you did it. So in order to clarify that,
We did,
I
we
would
did not.
suggest you have a separate motion on exceeding the revenue neutral rate and with a roll call vote.
Okay. Well, with that, I will make the motion to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2025 budget year.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote as well. Will the clerk please make that call?
Commissioner Neil Younger,
Yes?
Chair Nathan Liker,
Yes.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Yes.
Okay, we have a roll call.
Okay. The commission has voted to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the 2025 budget year. Okay, does that clear and,
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And
Okay.
maybe that's just my error, but
no, that's fine. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item is the Whispering Gales edition.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Justin Craig, Environmental Services Director. Before you this morning is the final plat application for the Whispering Gales Edition. On June 24th, James Mice, on behalf of the Gale E. Whispering Gales LLC, submitted the final plat application to the Ellis County Environmental Office for the creation of the Whispering Gales Edition. This edition is generally located to the northeast of intersection of I-70 and Yosemite Avenue. All required documents have been submitted, fees were paid, the neighboring landowners and those with interest were notified. Public hearing was held on May 29, 2024, and the Joint Planning Commission approved the preliminary plat. The Ellis County Commission reviewed and approved the preliminary plat on June 4th, 2024. On July 2020, excuse me, on July 24th, 2024, the Joint Planning Commission recommended the approval of the final plat application for the Whispering Gales Edition. Upon recommendation from the Ellis County Joint Planning Commission, the governing body shall take action to approve or disapprove the final plat, including the acceptance of street and other public way dedications, service and utility easements, and land dedicated for other public use. Along with, on that final plat application with the Planning and Zoning Commission, you'd ask for a few highlights from the discussion. The main discussion points of that evening were the water, which is, I believe, is everyone's concern. It's tough to predict the future of the water in the area. I believe most of the opinions were based on the letter from Karst Well Service that stated it was their conclusion and opinion that these 18 proposed domestic wells will have no appreciable effect on the sustainability of water in the region. Some other parts of the discussion, which James can come up and talk about, I believe there was an additional easement, utility easement added to the plat, and then some discussion on the flex zoned parcel that is remaining on what type of well it could use. It will really come down to what is eventually put there. If it's just a mom and pop store, they can use just a regular domestic well. If it ends up being something like a gas station, it could be defined as a public water supply, which public water supply is defined as a delivery of public piped water for human consumption that has at least 10 service connections or regularly serves at least 25 individuals daily, at least 60 days out of the year. So if it were some type of business that required that, they would be required to get a public water supply permit through KDHE and also possibly a water right through the Department of Water Resources. So that one you can't really define what it could be. It just depends on what ends up being there eventually. So I'll stand for any questions or.
We'll start with the flex zone area. What are some of the limitations that come with the flex?
Such as?
Can it be used for, say, adult entertainment or anything along those lines?
Could not be used for that. An adult entertainment cannot be within 1,000 feet of any residential use or residential district, so that automatically eliminates that. It would mainly be for small business, like a gas station. It would kind of depend on what
Okay.
exactly they wanted.
Would a business that wanted to develop in that area, would they need to get permission from, would they need to come through the zoning or go through the, let's call it the homeowners association to develop that? Or is once this set in, is that set in stone?
Depending on what the business is, it could be required to go through our planning and zoning. There are some things that are outright permitted, but it could be something as a conditional use. Say if it were, I don't want to speculate, say if it was a church or something, it's hard to pick one out of there, but whatever it falls in that definition, it could be required to go through the planning and zoning process to be approved that way. And as far as the dedication, I don't know if that might be a question for James on if they have any specific requirements of what will and won't be allowed. But
Okay. Kind of moving on, as is proposed plat, it has a road that is, presented in here, or actually two roads that are going to be private roads. These will not be public roads, and my sheriff walked out on us, but as a county, we're not going to be required to maintain them from a service standpoint. However, our EMTs will go down them, our sheriff's department will go down them when they're called. Concern that was proposed to me was ATV traffic. And I was kind of hoping our sheriff would be in here, but ATV traffic on a private road, is that going to be, can that be limited by the homeowners association, or is that something that's acceptable? And I'm going to pose that to our counselor.
Well, that would be limited by the homeowners association if they want to. County doesn't, assuming the county approves the plat, the roads being private, they're not subject to any control by Ellis County or any state statutes, municipal ordinances of any kind.
Okay,
So it would be under the control of the homeowners association.
okay,
And whether they allow ATVs would be up to them.
okay. So, it is, Mr. Mice, you're here on behalf of the Whisper Girls. Would you step up?
Morning, Commissioners. James Mice, Land Surveyor, Driggs Design Group, on behalf of the developer, Gail Lee. So like Bill said, the private streets, they'll be maintained by the homeowners association. ATV traffic, since they're private, the only ATV traffic in the area should be limited to the residents, their guests, and things of that nature. The HOA would be able to set limitations on, activity, especially with UTVs, ATVs, things like that. There will be speed limit signs posted, stuff like that, to try to keep traffic under control. But yeah, it'll be kind of a self-contained development, and hopefully they'll regulate themselves,
Okay.
Accordingly.
So is there a pre-existing HOA something?
So
or-
the HOA has not been formed yet. An HOA, it's basically going to be an LLC. So as soon as the plat is approved, the developer and the attorney will form an HOA or an LLC it'll have like a board of directors, it'll kind of be set up like a business, and each lot owner will become a member of that business. And so they will elect their governing body how they want to, and they will set the rules that they want, and they will also watch, new construction that occurs. They'll set their regulations on size of structure, type of structure, things like that, what can be allowed, they can go through and govern themselves, in their little development, how they see fit.
Okay. I guess I'm going to refer back to Counselor. With that being said, if somebody wants to come in and build and not that we have building codes, but we have certain types of buildings, I believe, in our zoning. And I may be misspeaking here. So, is there anything in our zoning that would prevent or require additional permits for size of structure or type of structure that more or less could be, the homeowners would not be able to supersede, I guess.
Well, I assume there'll be some restrictions on the type of buildings that can be located within the homeowners association. That's up to them to decide what they want. They may not want mobile homes, they may not want prefabricated homes, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
That's one of the things that you accomplish through an HOA. There will be subject to setback requirements from our zoning regulations, whatever buildings are constructed.
Okay.
So part of the plat is the plat and dedication papers. So these get filed at the same time as the plat. So for instance, for residential areas, dwelling size, there's a regulation in here. Ground floor area of the main structure, exclusive of one-story open porches, garages, and outbuildings, shall not be less than 1,800 square feet for a one-story dwelling, no less than 2,000 square feet for a split level, or 2,800 square feet for a two-story dwelling. No attached garage to any structure shall be less than a double-car garage unless waived by the Architectural Control Committee. Outbuildings, no more than 2 outbuildings are allowed on each lot. So a lot of it is already spelled out in these dedication papers.
Okay.
There's stuff for the residential portion, there's stuff for the commercial portion. So a lot of that's kind of already spelled out here, and we'll provide the framework for the HOA to kind of, to start with.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen?
There was also some concern with the water, about somebody coming in, and this will probably be the HOA, about somebody coming in putting like a fescue yard here. I mean, is that something that?
Right. So, in talking to the attorney, a developer like this, in order to put those kind of controls in, they would need to get an order from the chief engineer of the Division of Water Resources for the state of Kansas. So,
Okay.
you know, it's going to come down to, the developer can't enforce that. It would require probably the county commission and then getting the Division of Water Resources involved in something like that. So hopefully everybody out there, there's plenty of water for domestic supply. If you go to irrigate large areas, there's probably still plenty of water. It's going to have to be controlled locally.
Okay, I guess where I'm going with
The
this.
HOA can assist with that.
Has anybody contacted, rural water? They do have a 6 and a 4-inch line out there, so if water does become an issue, there will be adequate water.
Yep.
Whether they allow taps, but that's the next question.
Yep, the rural water actually crosses this property.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anybody in the future decides to go on it, whether it's the lot that's on flex or the residential lots, they could get together and work with the rural water to see if they could get that infrastructure put in.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my question is for clarification. Was a water study, was that necessary? This is a platting application. I mean, the current owner already owns the water rights and could go out there and drill water, and it's farmland. She could have irrigated it without having to worry about it. So is this just for future reference? I mean, why was a water study required for the platting? Because I don't think it was necessarily.
It was to satisfy questions from the planning commission and the county commission.
Okay. Which I think from my standpoint, they are satisfied because, again, it goes back to the property owner. The property owner already owns the water rights, and this is a platting request to just be able to divvy it out at some point and let future reference know to people that there is water there. But as far as, she already owns the water rights.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other further discussion on that?
I don't.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public? I know there's a number of people here. Anybody from the public that wish to speak on this? I know I did make contact with one yesterday, so.
Good morning. My name is Jalissa Haynes. I am a resident at 1741 Yosemento and would like to speak on this. My concern is the commercial property that has been zoned and what that commercial, what that is going to be used for. Being out there in the rural area off of I-70, there's been talk about a possible gas station. And so with that, I am concerned with safety. We have young children. I-70, as you all know, pulls a lot of individuals. And so I guess my concern is, you know, that being used as a gas station. I don't know if anybody can answer that question.
I don't think there's any application at this time for any business whatsoever. It's just allotted as a flex.
So if you remember, we rezoned it to residential. So this entire property was flex prior. So technically, when the developer bought it, she could have done anything that was allowed by right commercially on that property. So when we rezoned it, we didn't zone it to flex. We left that lot as flex and rezoned the rest to residential. So technically, before this person bought it and now, the status of that lot really hasn't changed, what can go in there. And as far as I know now, there are no, you know, there's no letters of intent, there's no, nothing's been locked into an agreement on that lot. It's just, it was recommended by realtors that the developer is working with to, it's a good location for, you know, leave that commercial. And there's even been talk, if all the residential lots sell, potentially coming back and making that into residential lots as well, depending on how it goes.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Is there any other discussion that?
Dylan Wiesner, I own 1742. I'm curious as to if there was, besides Mel Karst at Karst Waterwell, if there's anybody else that looked into the groundwater supply. Because I live just, I mean, not even a country mile north, and Mel dug our water well, and he dug 6 misses in a 6-acre spot before he hit water. So I know if you're in the water well business, you say water's good, like, especially if there's about to be 12 water wells coming in or whatever it is. So I'm just curious as to why, for something like this, of this scale, the Trigo water supply wasn't tapped into to begin with, or is a backup option.
right now, Trigo has a moratorium on selling water meters, and that's been going on and off for several years now. They'll release some, and then they put their moratorium back on. So we approached them. It wasn't an option. It may be in the future. And as far as Mel, he's drilled 3 wells on this property, kind of starting all the way at the very northwest corner, going down to the southeast. And he said there was plenty of water there, so it was drilled 3 holes, and he hit water on all 3 holes. So
Was there any misses? No.
he felt confident. So I'm guessing that probably has something to do with the formation as you go up the hill and you get into more of that rocky. So.
Okay, thank you. And we are not, as a commission, required that this property has water. I mean, this is going to be at the risk of the landowner and seller.
Buyer beware. I mean, I think that's, again, that goes back to my point, is this study is done more for reference for the future. They already own it, so if they have the right to drill and put water in there if they want, but if they sell it to a lot and that owner comes in and finds a bunch of empty, that's on that property owner. That's not on the commission to make sure that they have water. That's come up in the past in the county where somebody yells and they don't have water. But if they can't tap into Trigo, that's on you as the buyer. And if you can't get in city water, but this is a platting application, not a water rights application. So.
Okay. Was there any other discussion that wanted to be had before we go ahead and move on? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go through our process.
Well, I'll move to approve Whispering Gale's final plat application, Resolution 2024-13, to establish the creation of the Whispering Gales addition to Ellis County, Kansas.
I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. A plat is approved, I'm sorry.
I believe Jaden's intention is to create all the documents on the Mylar that will need to be signed, and I'll bring those to you at a future
Okay.
meeting to all sign out. However that works for you guys, and decide you'd like that done.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we will have Ellis County Historical Society.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I always learn so much. Everybody's leaving on
You know how to play
Fair.
in the room, you know it?
on the lighter part of the meeting. Come on. Amanda Rupp with the Ellis County Historical Society. I believe, Darren, included in your packet the two items that I had before you today. One is to request the special parks funds that we've restarted requesting again, that have been prior given to the Ellis County Historical Society. I don't know what the number is this year, but the request letter is in to be dispersed. And then the second is I'm asking someone else for money, not you guys, and would like the Ellis County Historical, or the Ellis County support. We're going after some other grants for the museum over in Victoria. So we'll be going after some Dane G. Hansen and some state grants in this next year cycle, and have presented a letter of support for you guys. It would be wonderful if you could, again, get behind us. You guys submitted a letter of approval, or a letter of support, excuse me, for the Sprint grant from the state a couple years ago that unfortunately we didn't get, but we're going to still go at it. So do you have any questions for me?
What's an update on the Brick by Brick campaign?
We are almost completely funded. We had to move some things around because of an unexpected 100-year-old pipe situation. So we will not have an upstairs bathroom at this time, but maybe in the future we will. We still have a nice restroom downstairs, but we will have an open house come Christmas. And that building will be open. Next summer we'll have a wonderful big display, not our own, but one on traveling display from Salina that has a big covered wagon that comes with it. So that's on track, and we love it. And our all of our artifacts are now, well, all of the artifacts that were stored in that area so that we could redo it are now over in Victoria, and they are putting in the HVAC system for that storage unit this week. So we're on track. So.
And you're hosting one of the library's programs currently from the Hayes Public, because they're going through their own renovations.
Yes,
so they're
yes.
starting to use your services and resources.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love that all this is coming together, because that building is a nice prominent building in downtown Hayes, but we hope to, collaborate a lot more. I was just speaking with Wendy Richmeyer for the children's play out of the community theater, and would love that sanctuary space already has slanted floor, and what would have been the altar is now like a stage to host maybe the children's play there. Doing a lot of collaboration through county and city organizations that could utilize that building, not just us. So, and hosting some other things over in Victoria when we get there. So.
Very good. Commissioner?
No, you just keep up the good work, and I don't know if you're not feeling good because you're not asking us for money, so.
Well, you already approved your budget for 2025. I was disappointed, but I'll work on my next ask. So, but yeah, thank you very much for your support.
No problem. Appreciate your work. At this time, I move to approve the special alcohol funds to be made to the Ellis County Historical Society.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And do we have a consensus to go ahead and sign the grant for the Ellis County Historical Society?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We will go ahead and sign that. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have tax foreclosure sale. Oh,
Bill Jeter, County Councilor. This is my agenda item.
yeah.
As you know, every year we do a tax foreclosure sale. KSA 79-2801 actually requires any county who has property with assessed valuation in excess of aggregate valuation in excess of $300,000 that's delinquent 3 years or more, or aggregate tax delinquencies of $10,000 or more are required to do a tax foreclosure sale. We've been doing one every year here for a while now, and it takes a lot of work. I initiate the process with the legal proceedings and through information and help from my assistant, Karina Parker, and Vern Reuter, Ellis County Treasurer, and Amanda Shannon, who's here this morning as the Deputy Treasurer. But we're ready, willing, and able to get after it again. So in order to initiate the process, the commission has to direct me as county councilor through a resolution to start that process. So that's the resolution that you have in front of you today. And as a side note, a year ago we did this resolution for taxes that were due at that time, and that sale will be held in October. And I think we have maybe 6 properties that are on it right now. Is that right, Amanda? And so it takes about a year from start to finish.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And just for the audience information, these properties, they can pay taxes any day up
Yeah.
until this
And
day of
what
the
we
sale.
have, we start off with a much larger list, and through letters that the treasurer's office sends out, a lot of them get taken care of. Right now, we have 19 different properties that have delinquent taxes in excess of $61,000.
Okay.
And this process is done at, well, there is some expense to the county. We've got publication costs, we have a filing fee, we have service of process costs. We can recover 5% of that cost from the sale proceeds. And once you initiate the process, that 5% starts now. And the first thing that we do is we divide those properties. Well, we send the list out to both abstracting companies, and they divide them on themselves to do certificates of title, which is what I use to base my petition on. And the reason why we're a little bit slower getting to a sale date from last year's petition is because, as some of you probably remember, the court system's software program got hacked and went down for a couple months, and you couldn't do anything. So, and that was at the end of the year when we were ready to file a petition, and we couldn't. So we actually didn't file the petition until January of this year.
Okay.
For last year's sale. So hopefully this one will move a little quicker, and in looking at the list, and as usual, there's probably at least half or more of the people, the owners who are delinquent in their taxes have been through this process before.
Okay.
So they'll get taken care of sometime before we get to sale. And hopefully of the 19 properties we have listed for this sale, most of those I think will probably get taken care of before we get to a sale date, but there's always 3 or 4, 5 or 6 that don't.
Okay.
And if they don't, then we sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, any questions?
No. I'll just say this. I do appreciate the irony a little bit here that in our agenda, we talked about taxes and revenue neutral and being taxed out of a property, and in the same agenda, we're having properties here that aren't paying their taxes that we have to go get. It's kind of a irony to it, but
Okay, I move to approve Resolution 2024-14 and allow the county councilor to move forward with the delinquent real estate tax proceeds.
Seconded.
I have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, motion carries. Okay. Next item, we have Purple Wave auction.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Last item on your agenda is to review a couple items from 3 different departments to sell on Purple Wave. A vehicle from EMS, a couple from the Sheriff's Office, and some different equipment out at the Public Works facility. We've used the Purple Wave auction several times, many times in the past. It's always been successful and beneficial for the county in regards to the amount of that our equipment does sell for. So this is just the next Purple Wave auction that we have to relinquish some of that information over to Purple Wave and get it listed on their site, if the commission would approve.
Okay.
I move to approve the attached list of items to be sold on Purple Wave.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's approved. Okay, at this time, we'll have our county administrator report.
I'll have to say that Purple Wave agenda item may have set a record for the quickness, so.
Always a first.
One thing I just want to share with the commission or with everybody, as everybody knows, September 11th is coming up on Wednesday, Patriot Day, so please keep in mind what that day represents and those that have lost and perished on that day as well as the days after that. One thing that we're doing for the county fire department that Ellis County is doing is, with it being on September 11th, each home game each game that the Hayes High football team has, they have a team meal, and the parents of each class host a meal. With the Hayes High team traveling to Denver on Friday, the actual meal is actually going to be on Wednesday, so we're hosting the Hayes High football team at the fire station to kind of do a little PR with them, but also express with them what the events of 9/11 really means to us, and kind of have some fun activities for them. Have a confidence course so they can pull some hose and drag some mannequins and do some things like that, and then have a good meal and before they get sent off to Denver for their football game. So that's kind of what the county fire department's doing. There's no, I will state, there's no expense to the county. Astra Bank is lending us their smoker, and the mall is allowing us to use their tables and chairs, and then all the parents pay for the food. We're just going to have them there to share the 9/11 day with us and have a good meal. So that's all I got.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Burgess.
I'll make just one more budget comment, just because Amanda kind of alluded to it. One of the places we did have to cut was on outside agencies, or didn't necessarily cut. We certainly did not fund all the way up to what the requests were. We did cut a little bit, so from that standpoint in our budget process, it is not easy to look at any department and then our outside agents, which we ended up cutting over 100,000 out of all the requests for outside agencies, and those are very important and valid services that get provided. But again, in our budget process, looking through all departments and everything, it is a big part of our discussion on how do we maintain our budget or get to a level that we're providing all the services we believe, but again, can't do everything that we want. So I just kind of, again, want to make that comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Younger.
Yes, I did attend the ribbon cutting for the new Astra Bank. I was happy to see that our clerk and deputy clerk were there, and I think we need to have that happen more often if we if our job will allow that. Also, I'm going to hit on Darren's thing. You know, there's veterans in here now. The 9/11 of 2001 affects a lot of lives. Still affects them. So everybody keep them in thought. So then I also want to congratulate Jeff Ridgway for winning the side-by-side, one of our employees, which is good. And then I also want to thank Carissa for the excellent newsletter again. She does a good job on that. That's why we have good people here, and that's getting back at the wage study. That's what retains our people here. And I also want to thank IT. I want to thank Lori. I had computer issues and come in, and she done an excellent job again. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. I have no report at this time. Okay. At this time, we have multiple executive sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
I move the county commission recess to executive session for 30 minutes pursuant of non-elected personnel matter. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is to discuss health administrative applications. Those attending, Commissioner Burgess, Commissioner Liker, Commissioner Younger, Jennifer Taylor, Mr. Bill Jeter, Mr. Darren Myers. So 40, 10, 10.
Seconded.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, no decisions were reached during that executive session.
Okay, I move to the Board of the County Commissioners recess in the executive session for 15 minutes pursuant to the attorney-client privilege exception, contract negotiations, those attending, Bill Jeter, Darren Myers, Commissioner Burgess, Commissioner Liker, and Commissioner Younger. We will be at 10:30.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. You good? Okay, no decisions were reached during the executive session. Do we have any other further business?
No.
Okay, with no further business, meeting's adjourned.